Elon Musk's latest venture, named DOGE, was presented as an unprecedented audit aimed at rooting out waste and fraud within the federal government. Yet, as public opinion data reveal, the initiative has become mired in skepticism and controversy. With Americans broadly receptive to the idea of tackling governmental inefficiency, Musk's plan was swiftly cast as an opportunistic boondoggle. Critics argue that what began as a populist pitch risks inflicting long-term damage on essential programs while lining the billionaire's legal coffers. At its core, the DOGE program was sold to the public as an antidote to bureaucracy's excesses. Musk, leveraging his reputation for disruptive innovation, claimed that a forensic review of federal spending could identify hundreds of billions in recoverable funds. This framing tapped into a widely held belief. Survey results show a plus 14-point net agreement that the government is inefficient. Yet, as analysts point out, broad agreement on a cliché does little to justify draconian cuts to critical services such as social security. When asked directly about the DOGE audit, only a slim majority, in net terms plus 6 points, expressed support for the concept. That margin all but vanishes when the public evaluates its execution. The initiative's performance rating stands at 12 points, indicating more believe it is failing than succeeding. A mere 18% of respondents feel that Musk himself is doing a good job overseeing the operation. Clearly, confidence in his stewardship is markedly lower than the baseline appetite for reform. Future preferences for DOGE are sharply divided. 1/3 of adults, 33%, favour continuation of the programme in some modified form, while an equal share view it as reckless and demand an immediate suspension. Another 28% endorse the principle of cutting waste, but insist that the effort be scaled back. Only 4% oppose any federal reductions whatsoever. This fragmentation underscores the careful balancing act between fiscal discipline and preservation of earned benefits. Political leaders and institutional stakeholders have weighed in with skepticism. Reports suggest that former President Donald Trump, initially intrigued, has grown weary of the spectacle. Elements within the current administration privately deride Musk as a cringy, questioning both his qualifications and his motives. Meanwhile, executives at Tesla have reportedly chided him to a show up to work and earn your paycheck, a stark reminder that even Musk's supporters harbour doubts about his multitasking prowess. Complicating matters are allegations of impropriety and legal exposure. Musk's own father has publicly criticised the initiative, underscoring familial dissent. The oft-cited figure of $150 billion in projected savings has been characterised as inflated, with experts noting that actual recoveries will likely fall far short. Stakeholders, including Social Security beneficiaries, are reportedly preparing lawsuits alleging misrepresentation and harm. Observers point to a flurry of Musk's internal communications, emails demanding 5 deliverables by Friday, accompanied by photos of himself wielding a chainsaw and wearing what critics deride as short shirts, as emblematic of a campaign veering into theatricality rather than a sober governance. Governance. Historical parallels emerge when one recalls corporate branding missteps, such as New Coke's ill-fated debut and the subsequent reintroduction of Old Coke. Musk's rebranding of federal oversight has, to date, backfired in much the same way. The hype outpaced substance, and public confidence has eroded. Even the throwaway comparison to RC Cola, once dismissed as an also-ran in the soft drink wars, serves as a cautionary tale about the perils of overconfidence and poor strategic execution. Looking ahead, the most plausible scenario involves the continuation of DOGE in a diminished capacity, likely under new oversight. Pressure from politicians, potential litigation, and internal dissent at Tesla may compel Musk to step aside or cede control. Absent his charismatic leadership, the program risks becoming a truncated audit with limited reach. Yet even a curtailed operation could leave a legacy of bureaucratic disruption and shaken public trust in government services. In sum, Elon Musk's DOGE initiative has exposed a central paradox in American politics. While there is unmistakable hunger for clamping down on waste and fraud, there is equally strong resistance to unilateral actions by self-styled reformers operating at the margins of constitutional authority. The lesson may be that effective oversight requires more than a billionaire's megaphone. It demands transparent processes, stakeholder buy-in, and adherence to the rule of law. As the DOGE stumbles through its first 100 days, one truth remains clear. Genuine accountability cannot be imposed from the top down without broad democratic support. Absent decisive course correction, DOGE risks leaving a legacy of half measures rather than meaningful reform. Congressional oversight hearings are already being scheduled, with members of both chambers demanding answers on Musk's authority to access sensitive federal records. Legal experts note that any unilateral audit of Social Security files may run afoul of privacy laws and interagency protocols. Should lawmakers formally censure the initiative or restrict its funding, what remains of a DOGE would likely wither under layers of bureaucratic injunctions. Moreover, the partisan calculus cannot be ignored. Preliminary cross-tabulations show Republicans more inclined to view the audit favorably, motivated by long-standing calls for smaller government, while Democrats express deep reservations about the risk to earned benefits. Independents, reflecting the broader public split, mirror the 33-33-28 distribution. 1/3 open to continuation, 1/3 demanding an end, and the remainder urging a tempered approach. This fracturing along ideological lines suggests that any path forward will require legislative compromise rather than executive fiat. At ground level, agency workers report confusion and low morale. Interviews with a dozen mid-level officials at the Social Security Administration reveal frustration at shifting directives and uncertainty over data-sharing protocols. We support transparency, says one career audit. But there's a difference between a genuine forensic review and stunts designed for headlines. Similar sentiments emerge from the Government Accountability Office, which has historically conducted waste and fraud examinations without the theatrics now accompanying a DOGE. Economists caution that a precipitous withdrawal of funds from essential programs could yield unintended consequences. Seniors reliant on timely Social Security payments risk delays if staffing resources are diverted. Veterans, the disabled, and low-income families could face service disruptions. In contrast, targeted audits run by established oversight bodies have, in the past decade, identified only modest levels of recoverable waste, typically under 1% of total disbursements. By promising orders of magnitude more savings, Musk's initiative sets itself up for either spectacular success or equally spectacular failure. Legal action appears imminent. Consumer advocacy groups are preparing suits challenging the legality of Musk's data requests. Social Security beneficiaries have already filed a preliminary class action claim, alleging that the audit's delays constitute a de facto cut to earned benefits. Should courts grant an injunction, even the appearance of progress on a DOGE could evaporate overnight. Internally, Tesla's board is reportedly convening to review Musk's extracurricular activities. Investor confidence in Tesla has wavered since the audit announcement. Shareholders question whether the company's flagship executive is spread too thin. Proxy advisory firms have updated their recommendations, warning that Musk's public persona, once an asset, may now pose a reputational risk. Should Musk resign from a DOGE oversight, the program could be reassigned to a bipartisan commission. Lawmakers on both sides have floated proposals for a joint select committee, staffed by career auditors and subject matter experts to ensure methodological rigor and legal compliance. Such a body would likely eschew Musk's flamboyant tactics in favor of meticulous, transparent processes, albeit at a slower pace. Ultimately, the DOGE saga underscores a fundamental tension in American governance, the desire to curb waste colliding with the need to safeguard social contracts. While the public clamors for accountability, it remains wary of shortcuts and spectacle. Elon Musk's foray into federal auditing may have catalyzed debate, but whether it yields substantive reform or serves merely as a cautionary tale depends on forthcoming legal rulings, legislative actions, and the billionaire's willingness to submit his initiative to conventional checks and balances. As Washington braces for the next round of hearings, one certainty stands out: genuine oversight requires more than the bluster of headline-grabbing press releases. It demands adherence to established law, respect for procedural norms, and above all, a commitment to protecting the program's Americans depend upon. In the balance between entrepreneurial zeal and institutional integrity, the outcome of a DOGE will set a precedent, one with ramifications far beyond this audit cycle.